Hey everybody, it's Kelly Cooper and welcome to another Facebook Live video. Today's question is, that I'm going to be doing, I've had a health problem for a couple of years that I've tried to heal through LOA and meditation and prayer and even completely handing over the problem to the universe, but I still see no light at the end of the tunnel. What does one do when they've tried everything, let go of everything, taken perfect care of themselves, listened with rapt attention for the answer? Is there a next step I don't know about? I've been to many doctors and natural healers to no avail. I was really excited to talk about this topic because I have personal experience dealing with the health issue from an energetic perspective. Hi, Chris. Um, oh, by the way, the upload speeds where I am right now aren't great. The video quality could be a little spotty here and there, but for the most part, it should be fine. So, if it's terrible, let me know. But I think the audio tends to be solid, even if the picture gets a little funky. But anyway, so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. And I can only share my own experience with healing from an energetic perspective and what the bulk of it consisted of for me. So I'm not going to be talking a lot about positive thinking and all of that sort of stuff. Of course, that stuff has its place. But if we see all the shit that manifests in our life that causes us pain, is a result of some sort of energetic debris or energetic imbalance or whatever, you see dealing with that shit is probably going to be the primary means of healing your problem. Oh, yes, Chris, check it out. It's on the site there. I hope you enjoy it. So, again, I can only speak to my own experience. My health issue kind of came out of nowhere. It was very intense. I manifested intense pain basically in a matter of days. It had spread throughout my whole body. It kind of caught me off guard. It came out of nowhere. And it triggered a massive, like, fucking avalanche of shit in me. And dealing with that shit was what helped me get better. So, and the question this person asked was, they talked a lot about, letting go, taking care of themselves, doing all that, turning things over to the universe, meditating, praying. Again, all of that stuff could have its place. It's great. But for a lot of us, the biggest part of energetic healing is going to come with dealing with all the crap that's now manifesting as the health issue. And for a lot of us, it's going to be some deep shit. For me, it was some very, very deep shit. The symptoms themselves were very scary. I was in a lot of pain every day. It was very, very wearing on me emotionally. And I just started having these breakdowns out of nowhere, basically. Not out of nowhere, but I had never emotionally, I can't remember any time ever being that upset or having that much of a deep emotional response to something, being so afraid of something that was happening in my life. So the first thing I would say is, whatever level of emotional pain you're feeling, you have to let yourself feel it. For me, it was literally like nuclear level meltdowns. Yours might not be that serious. So I'm not saying unless you're like having total nervous breakdowns, you're suppressing emotion. But my point is, whatever level of emotion you're feeling about the health condition, about anything else in your life that's bothering you, let yourself feel it to whatever degree you're feeling it. Don't suppress it in any way. These breakdowns, they might not be fun. I remember for the first 2 weeks I was dealing with this issue, I had at least 2 a day. I could feel them coming. I didn't want them to come. I did not want to deal with them. I did not want to deal with the terror I was feeling about what was happening to me. I was terrified because, again, this, for me, the condition just came out of nowhere. But I had to let myself have these breakdowns. So let yourself feel your shit to whatever degree you're feeling it. And if you're someone that's been dealing with a health problem for a long time, I know physical issues, they're really hard to look past. They really wear on us emotionally. And if you're not seeing a lot of movement, there's a good chance that you're not dealing with your feelings to the level they need to be dealt with. I'm giving you permission to deal with them. Go nutbag crazy. Just do it. My husband, God bless him, he must have thought I was insane. If people saw me, they would probably think I was having a breakdown. I kind of was. The way I would cry and just, I was terrified. And I had to let myself feel that terror. Because you have to understand what the law of attraction type stuff is. Yeah, positive thinking, all of that, of course it has its place. You need to believe in your ability to heal. You need to believe all of these things. It's important. But when we have a lot of energetic buildup of all the stuff that led to these unwanted circumstances, especially if stuff builds up enough to the point where it's manifesting as a chronic health issue, that energy is just going to suffocate any positive energy you try to build because it's just so strong and it has so much momentum. And then if we're not dealing with it, it it's not going to go anywhere. It's not just going to go away. And again, any positive emotion you're trying to cultivate by focusing positively on healing, praying, meditating, affirming, whatever, whatever floats your boat as far as external resources and tools and techniques go, it just, that energy will never gain enough momentum. It'll just be suffocated. It's kind of like when a fire needs oxygen around it to breathe, to feed the flames. You need to unload some of your shit, or else that shit just suffocates all the positive energy you're trying to get going. It can't get any momentum. It can't get any real footing in your vibration. So let yourself feel your shit. For me, again, my situation, because it came up so suddenly and was so intense, one of my big emotions was just deep, deep, intense terror. I'm like, what the fuck is happening to my body? I was healthy 3 days ago, like, what the fuck? So for me, that was one of my main emotions. And fear is like the feeling we hate the most. So it was not easy to let myself feel this fear. Yes, I was trying to think positively and healing, and there was always a part of me, I knew I was going to be okay. But the part of me that thought, what if all this stuff I'm doing doesn't work? What if this doesn't go away? What if I'm just a sick person now? That terrified me, and I had to let myself feel that. The second thing I would say is, a lot of times our upset, we blame it on the physical discomfort strictly. And of course, it sucks to be in pain or to have digestive issues or whatever the chronic issue is, right? It sucks. And of course, on a very surface level, of course, our upset is in response to this physical discomfort. But you also have to understand, too, a lot of the emotion is coming from not the physical discomfort, but the meaning we're assigning to what's happening to us and the story we're telling around it. So for me, of course, was a big part of my upset being in like chronic pain all over my body so bad I couldn't walk some days, like out of nowhere. Yeah, of course, it sucked to feel that much pain. But my real suffering was what the story I was telling around the condition. What if I never get better? What if I'm someone that I just have a chronic health problem now and this is my life? I travel, for a lot of you that don't know, me and my husband, we spend a lot of time abroad. We travel like pretty much constantly. That wasn't happening when I could barely walk and I was in so much pain. Like, what the fuck was traveling? Like, okay, sure. I thought my life was over as I knew it. My husband had to do so many basic things for me because I was in so much pain. I couldn't open a bottle of water. There were times he had to wash my hair for me because lifting my arms, the pain would be so bad, I couldn't even do it. And I remember one day he was washing my hair and I just felt such deep shame about being so like incapacitated. I was just crying and crying and crying. And he's like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? And he's like, it's okay, but you have yes, the physical symptoms are a part of our emotional suffering, but you also have to realize also too, the real suffering is not the actual symptoms, it's the story around what's happening to you. So my story was very painful because to me, this condition had all of a sudden just taken over my life. And everything I dreamed of doing, everything I had been doing, it was like my whole world was imploding. I was like, my life is over. And that was a really terrible feeling. So you have to understand too, once you start changing the story around all of that too, that can help you feel better. That can ease some of the physical discomfort because obviously it just feeds the physical pain and whatever other symptoms we're feeling. Another thing I would say is our body speaks to us in metaphors. For me, one of my things that I realized was because the pain was it was in my joints, and our joints are right where our flexibility lies. And I realized that one of the things the symptoms were showing me specifically was my lack of flexibility in life. And in a lot of ways, I've always been very easygoing, but in a lot of ways I wasn't. And I still was trying to control a lot of things in a lot of ways, and I didn't realize it. And what better way to show me that lack of flexibility and rigidness than manifesting a condition where my joints were in intense pain and I did not have any flexibility and I could barely move some days, I barely walk. So when you think of your specific symptoms, when you think of them from that metaphor type space, what are they showing you? Oh yes, Chris, I was very lucky to have Ryan. I would have gotten through it by myself too, but yeah, no, it was bad. It was really bad. But so yeah, what is that flexibility that the flexibility, the lack of flexibility was manifesting as a joint problem. in a lot of these metaphors, this is not a new thing. Some of you have probably heard this a lot before about the metaphors with health issues. Don't dismiss cliche, common stuff thinking, oh, yeah, I already know that or whatever. It does us a great disservice. So some of them might sound very cliche, but don't dismiss it. Think like, okay, is this something that's happening in my life? Like if the woman that asked the question, I didn't mention the one thing, but she had mentioned about her issue was with trouble breathing. So what is trouble breathing? You know, do you feel suffocated in your life in some way? Your back pain, right? That's a huge one. A lot of people have that problem. And what is one of the links to what carrying a burden or feeling like you're carrying a burden or too much responsibility. Again, the joint pain, lack of flexibility. Something with the stomach, constipation. Are you holding on to something that you need to let go of, and it's manifesting as you literally holding on to shit, right? So that's another thing to think about. So you want to think about, again, from an energetic perspective, you don't just want to focus on the positive thinking and again, that has its place, but especially if stuff builds up enough that it manifests as like more serious chronic health conditions, you're going to have to dive into your shit a little bit, and it's going to be really scary. Again, for me, the main emotion for me was deep terror, just because I didn't know what was happening to me, and it was so severe, and it literally came out of nowhere. Another thing I would say too, as far as external, like diets, supplements, all of that, you have to honor the part of yourself that probably thinks that stuff is important, and that's good. I had a part of myself too that I believed if I took certain supplements or I made certain changes to my diet, things would be okay. So, but I also recognized at the same time the true root of the problem was energetic. So I didn't want to get too caught up in looking to external treatments and external supplements and resources, because as many of you seen with health problems, and like that's an endless supply. There's tens of thousands of supplements, countless diets and healing modalities. So don't get too caught up in that stuff. But if there's a part of you that believes there are outside things that will help you, that from an energetic perspective is good, because it fosters an expectation you'll get better. So I had found a book I really resonated with that explained the symptoms I was having from an interesting perspective, and then recommended certain changes. I honored that part of me that felt like I wanted to do something external. Doing nothing external at all probably would have bothered me too much. So I did it. But again, I recognized that like 99% of my healing was going to be coming from doing the inner work and just dealing with my shit that had now manifested as this health problem. So what you want to do is honor that part, but again, don't get too caught up. So I limited myself to just like a handful of supplements. Oh, thank you, Annie, for that recommendation. A book one of the people's recommending. Your body is telling you, love yourself. Okay, yes. Anyone looking, check out the comments then and for that book. Yeah, it's a lot of it's emotional. So honor the supplements, honor that part of you that feels like that fosters an expectation you're going to get better. And yes, Chris, you're right. It's all about the mindset. So I had a handful of supplements, but I limited myself to like 3 or 4, and that was it. Everything else was inner work, dealing with the pain, the terror, the fear I was dealing with, and all of that stuff. And every time I had one of my like breakdowns, I got better. I noticed an improvement in my symptoms because I saw it was really the shit. And then the last major breakdown I had was like, whew, it was a big one. It was about grief of death of my father, big heavy stuff, and that I just had only dealt with on surface levels. So that's the thing you're going to find in life in general too. A lot of shit we deal with, we don't deal with it fully right out the gate. It's a process. It's this healing and all. It's not this linear thing where you just move through one thing, you're done with it forever, then you move on to the next thing. You circle back to things, different angles of a situation get triggered in a different, and all that stuff, right? So obviously I had grieved my father many times in the past, but not in the way that I needed to. And my last big breakdown, there was a huge shift in my condition, and slowly but surely I started getting better, and I could feel the difference. And it took a while for the symptoms to go away completely, but eventually they did. They have yet to come back. I can't control if they come back again. I hope they don't. I hope that's not a way I need to be shown any shit in my life again. But if it is, it is. I can't do anything about it. There's um, surrender to what's happening right now. I know it sucks, but surrender to dealing with the shit. Take good care of yourself. Give yourself permission to prioritize your emotional well-being. If that's going to make other people upset in your life, fuck them. You can't worry about that stuff. You have to prioritize your well-being. When you realize also too that our physical health is a reflection of our energetic health, you see a lot of things you need to tend to help you get better physically. To your mind, it probably doesn't make sense because it seems like it has nothing to do with your health. But again, if it's the energy, all these energetic debris starts gathering up, and then it manifests as these health problems, digestion problems, chronic pain, headaches, whatever. You see things like always saying yes to people when you'd rather just say no, overextending yourself with commitments, hanging around people you don't want to hang out with and it doesn't feel good to be around them. You see all of these things that seem, again, to have like nothing to do with your health. They're actually very related to our physical well-being. So another thing too you want to think about is just from a general energetic perspective, what can I do generally to feel better energetically? Again, maybe you have to learn to just start saying no, and people get upset, fuck them, who cares, it's their problem. You're overextending yourself, you need to scale back on commitments. You're doing things out of guilt or obligation, you're going to want to stop doing that. You're doing stuff you don't want to do, you know what I'm saying? So that's another thing too, is when you see general energy, how it manifests in all these different ways, tending to your energetic health in any way is going to benefit you with your physical health. I feel like I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to stop now. But yeah. Also, too, I didn't even think about it. If you resonated with my perspective on what I'm talking about here, I actually did a call series all about this, basically. So if you want to hear more about this, if you go to my website, livelifemadeToOrder.com, under my products, you will see it's called Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body. I basically go into all of this, obviously in much more detail. It's several hours of content together over 4 or 5 calls. There's assignments that come with it to kind of help you explore your energy around it. So yeah, check that out if you feel like this was helpful to you and you want to go deeper with it, with my perspective on this. But yeah, deal with the shit. Tend to your energetic health generally in any way you can. It will benefit you physically. See what your body is trying to tell you specifically. The positive thinking, all of that, of course it has its place, but don't rely too heavily on that, especially if it means neglecting dealing with the shit. Because as much as we want to think that all of that will override it, it won't, especially if something's manifested to this point where it's a chronic health issue. You probably have a lot of emotion built up around it. You're going to need to deal with it. Don't be afraid to deal with it. That's the key to healing it for most of us. It's going to be dealing with the shit from an energetic perspective, not trying to think more positively about your health and all of that. Yeah, of course, again, that has its place, but that's oftentimes it's not going to be enough for these more serious issues. So yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you liked this, and if you think anyone would benefit from this topic, please feel free to share. And yeah, that's it. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Annie, for your comments and your helpful insights and the suggestion of the book. And yeah, much love to everybody, and have a great day or night. Bye.